This is Rae Grillo-Abuah. I'm a writer also with Brazilian roots. In this episode, we examine Brazilian Carnival beyond spectacle. We trace the demographic foundations of Brazil's African diaspora, the Yoruba cosmology preserved in Afro-Brazilian religious traditions, and the question of institutional legitimacy within national culture. This is not performance commentary. It is historical and theological analysis. This is Carnival and Continuity. In Carnival and Continuity, we begin with demographic scale because scale is not a statistic. It is a structural force. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, Brazil received more enslaved Africans than any other territory in the Atlantic world. In several regions, African-descended populations formed demographic majorities. That density changed the conditions of cultural survival. Language did not disappear as quickly. Ritual systems could be practiced collectively. Cosmologies were transmitted not only within families, but across neighborhoods, markets, and brotherhood associations. When cultural systems are numerically reinforced, they do not retreat entirely into secrecy. They adapt, reorganize, and in some cases re-emerge publicly. Carnival in this context is not simply festivity. It is one of the visible outcomes of demographic endurance. To understand Brazilian public ritual, we must first understand the structural weight of population. Tomorrow in Carnival and Continuity, we move from demographic scale to cosmology, examining how Yoruba religious systems shaped what became visible in Brazilian public life. In Carnival and Continuity, Part 2, Cosmology and Public Symbolism, we examine the Yoruba cosmology behind Brazilian carnival symbolism. The Orisa are divine forces structuring nature, morality, and social order. Ṣàngó is associated with thunder and justice, Ògún with iron and disciplined force, Ògún with rivers and diplomacy, Yemọja with origin waters and motherhood. These are not decorative myths, they are cosmological principles. When Yoruba communities were transported to Brazil, these systems traveled with them and adapted through Afro-Brazilian religious traditions such as Candomblé. The axes, iron tools, and river colors visible in Brazilian carnival reflect this theology. Social media shows spectacle at Carnival and Continuity explains structure. Tomorrow, Part 3 examines how sacred cosmology became national cultural expression. In Carnival and Continuity, Part 3, Brazil, Sacred Cosmology, and National Legitimacy, we close the arc. Part 1 established why Brazil received the largest number of enslaved Africans in the Atlantic world. Part 2 examined the Yoruba cosmology preserved in Afro-Brazilian religious traditions such as Candomblé. Now we return to Brazil and examine recognition. In Brazil, sacred cosmology survived displacement. Yoruba theological systems structured meaning within Afro-Brazilian communities for centuries under Portuguese Catholic authority. Over time, elements of that cosmology moved into Brazil's most visible national festival. Axes associated with Ṣàngó iron symbolism linked to Ògún, river colors reflecting oceanic imagery connected to Yemọja. These are not decorative myths, they are structured theology carried across the Atlantic. Yet in Brazil, Catholicism retained institutional legitimacy within state structures. Afro-Brazilian traditions shaped national culture. But formal recognition did not always follow cultural influence. Demography explains survival in Brazil. Cosmology explains symbolism in Brazil. Power explains legitimacy in Brazil. Brazilian carnival is not spectacle detached from origin. It is African theology preserved, adapted, and made nationally visible within Brazil. Visibility is not ownership.